Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are so blessed to have a guest with us. She's a gender expert and we are going to delve into this topic. I know most of us are excited about it. Karibu sana, tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much, Beatrice, for having me. And yes, I'm glad to be here. And my name is Anne Sabania Bogwa. Sabania is my father, and Bogwa is my husband. I honor them and I love them. Of course, my dad is late, but I honor him posthumously because he gave birth to me.
You're blessed.
Yes. So I come from Embu County, Mbere North.
County number 14.
County number 14.
You said it.
Yes, county number 14,
yes.
where our governor has 9 lives.
Yes.
Yes, that's
you
where I
said
come
it.
from.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my county.
Right.
Yeah.
Mbere County. And I just told my viewers that you're a gender expert, and I'm sure they are wondering, so who is a gender expert?
As a gender expert, I would first start to explain how I got where I am in terms of schooling. I did Bachelor of Arts in Social Work at the University of Nairobi.
Right.
And as we were taught, and we know, and in practice, social work is a helping profession.
Right.
And so you can take various branches of social work. Some go to work in hospital and health systems, that's the medical social workers. Others get to counseling. Others get to just development.
Yes.
and policy work. And for me, I took development, and I have a lot of focus to women and girls. And basically looking at gender issues and how our bringing as
Yes.
women and men in our society influence how we do things, how we behave,
Right.
what kind of decision we make, who gets involved where, what priorities are given to who.
Right.
You know, in a scenario where you have constraint of resources, who gets the upper hand. And so gender basically looks at the relationship between men and women.
Right.
And how they have been socialized to behave.
Right.
Because we are a result of socialization.
Right.
How you saw your mother doing it and how you do it today.
Right.
How your son sees your husband doing it and how he does it, and how we propagate the same.
Yes.
So we say that gender is a social construct.
Right.
It is constructed by how we do things. You know,
Right.
we look at how a girl, for example, when you give birth to a girl, you're told, give them dolls because they're supposed to
They're
be
supposed
mothers.
to be girls.
They're
Yes.
supposed to,
Yes.
when you get a boy,
Cars.
even today, I ask you, you have a baby bump, some baby shower. So what color? You say blue.
for the boy.
So for the boy.
Yes.
And so I bring the cars. I'll bring the equipment that looks like masculine and power, because
the
so, yeah,
tools, and
the
all
tools.
that. Yes.
And the same case for girls, we do the same. So that's the socialization. That's
Right.
how gender is socialization of men and women. How behavior, how we perceive things, how we do things. So for me as a gender expert, therefore, what I do is I look at those, behaviors,
Right.
how the social norms, how the roles of both women and women as allocated by the society, how they frame, how they do things, how they influence, how they do things, how they make decisions, how they get to benefit from, even the national cake.
Right.
And so I look at the constraint, therefore,
Right.
that either men or women are likely to face
Right.
as they try to navigate through life. So as a gender expert, therefore, I look at how are women being affected by the things that are happening and how they are being socialized. How are men, on the same case, suffering? How are they at a lower advantage or upper advantage? Who is, we look at the
determines
yeah,
society.
We look at the power relations in families and communities, decision making, allocation of resources at household level, and how that influence you know, our well-being,
Right.
you know, livelihoods options. Who has more livelihood option compared to the other?
Right.
And how can policy there be made to make sure that that gap, you know, is actually reduced? So
Wow.
that if men have more opportunities than women, how can we make sure that we bring, you know, we narrow
Bridge
the
the
gap,
gap.
you know, bridge the gap,
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So and that's when we bring the questions of, you know, gender equity, you know,
Right.
bringing fairness, you know, and sometimes you talk about affirmativeness, you know,
Yes,
just
the
making sure that
affirmative
things,
one.
yeah, things are happening fairly for both men and women, and both men and women, girls and boys can have equal chances in life.
Amazing.
So that's how I look at.
That is amazing. I'm sure even my viewers are thinking, oh, okay, so gender has to do with men and women.
Yes.
And in this particular case, you have a passion for ensuring that all parties
Yes.
are able to get to the table
Yes.
and, you know, have options equally.
Yeah.
And maybe looking at why you're doing what you're doing, what informed your choice of getting into the line of gender and development? Why you do what you do?
Why I do what I do.
Yes.
That's a long story. I hope we have time to listen to it.
I think we have time.
And
We can hear your story.
my viewers, maybe you may want to interact with me.
Yes.
The Anne you see. I mean, what is that I've gone through, so
Right.
that up to where I am, I have become
Right.
someone who can stand and tell people, you know, as far as the constraints that women are facing and men are facing, this is the way.
Right.
These are options. I grew up in Bere, as I said,
Right.
in a very poor household, where, as I remember, I don't remember having a dress, an alternative dress, maybe
Oh
to
my
wear.
goodness.
I don't remember having a bed. Yeah. I don't remember having a mattress, even a blanket. Thank God, Bere is hot, so even without a blanket, you can
You
still have
could
a night
still
and without
survive.
pneumonia. If it is
Right.
cold places like here, maybe I would not have survived.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so I grew up in a family where my father and my mother, you know, had a lot of wrangles. And today I look at it that those wrangles were actually coming because of the constrained livelihood options. So there
Right.
were so little options for livelihoods. Everyone is poor around us. We were the poorest.
Right.
So I would remember my mother would wake up, you know, go scavenging for us,
Right.
get into the neighbors, getting what they ate yesterday because we've slept hungry for 2-3 days. We've not had a meal for several days, and sometimes she would even come with a cup of flour,
Yes.
you know, borrowed from a neighbor, and make porridge for us.
Absolutely.
And of course, the youngest of us would have the porridge, and the others who are a bit would
Priorities.
they would
Priorities.
share the sufuria. You know, the maths of subdivision.
I can imagine. I'm not thinking so. There has to be some prioritized category of people because
Yeah.
the smaller one has to get
Yes.
a better share.
Yeah, better
At least
share.
to survive.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, of course, we are 7 of us in our family.
Wow.
So by the time I get to know about our poverty issues,
Right.
my sister and gotten married, and so the other 2 brothers, second and third, were already working as chef and boys, and then I and the fourth born, had gotten sponsorship from Compassion, so he was in school.
Right.
So me and my 2 other brothers, the other brother was young, so he was not yet ready for school.
Right.
But me and immediate brother, we were ready for school, but we couldn't go to school.
Wow.
So I remember at age 6, I was a babysitter.
Age 6?
Yes, I was a babysitter. And so I would just, you know, sitting down with babies and
Taking care of
taking
them.
care of
That is
them.
Not your siblings,
Not
but
my
other
siblings, yes,
siblings.
yes.
So you could get something to bring on the table.
Yeah, actually, I consider it today child labor because
Right.
I was benefiting from it.
Right.
My father would probably come and pick those coins, and I don't know how he'd do with them. Maybe,
Right.
you know, finances, lifestyle. But what I know is that I was a babysitter. My brothers were hands boy, and my mother was. My mother is a hero.
She is a
You
hero.
should have time for her here,
Wow.
just to listen to a story.
We are going to get you right here on our bench next time.
My mother.
Yes.
As I said, we come from Bere, the lowest part of Embu County.
Right.
And the upper part of Embu, where we have vegetation, like we have fruits and vegetables.
highlands.
The highlands, we
Yes.
have mains and stuff. So my mother would trek for 3 or so days.
Wow.
Trek on a day like on a Monday, get the commodities on a Tuesday, put them in the only First Me matatu that was available, and then she travels back again by foot and arrives back home on Wednesday.
Wow.
So in one of those trips when she went to get the commodities,
Right.
that's when my sister was married off.
Oh my God. She was not even aware.
No, she was not aware. She came home and she found my sister was
She's
married
gone
off.
and married off.
Yes. And I actually remember that scenario. It wasn't
Yeah.
I was very, very young, but I remember the scenario because I remember some sodas were brought at home, and for the first time I handed a bottle of soda.
It was exciting for the moment.
Yes. And my sister showered us, akaacha ametuosha, we were clean, and she left. And we didn't know she was going where. And that was the last day we saw her in our home.
your
And so when
house.
my mother came back, found that my sister was not in. And I remember my mother and my father fighting when my mother asked where my sister was. And my
Right.
father told my mother, come on, take soda and drink. When was the last time you saw sugar in this home?
Goodness.
You know?
Wealth had been brought.
Where that be brought? And my
My
sister had gone
goodness.
away.
Yeah.
So that picture remained in me.
Right.
I was young, but I still plays up to date. I still remember how my sister scratched my foot
Right.
with that mawe ya kuoga. I still remember up to date. I was young, but I still remember.
And was she ready or was she?
She wasn't ready.
Right.
She was a CPE candidate.
A
She was actually,
teenager.
yes, she was actually the best in the Embu County at that time.
Goodness.
And she got married just a few weeks to CPE.
My
and that
goodness.
was dream
That was
shattered.
The end.
Yes. So so my sister got married, and so I that's how I started now framing. You're asking me why I do this, what I do.
Yes, exactly.
So I started seeing the unfortunate situation men put sometimes women to. Because
Right.
I am convinced it's because my father was not tolerant enough, you know, and the resilience was low to wait for this girl to go to school and probably become better. And
Right.
therefore he chose to marry her off and get some little wealth, which was not even there for long, you know.
Yeah.
We didn't yet, it didn't benefit any of us. None of us was paid
imagine.
school fees by that wealth, you know, as they say, it's wealth.
Yes.
Um,
So,
So-
short benefit.
it was a very short-term benefit.
Yeah.
And so at that point, my father and my mother broke up. And I remember they got separated, and my mother left and went to Kiambere Dam. Kiambere Dam, that time, it was under construction.
Right.
So those who know Kiambere Dam, that's where my mother went to do vipanda, you know, cooking uji, cooking chapati,
Right.
and, you know, cooking for the workers who are doing the
The
Kiambere
dam,
Dam, just
yes.
to help get a few coins for our family. And when my mother went there, a school started there around Kiambere Dam, you know, because now there was high population, you know, an influx of people coming from wherever. And there was, of course, need for a school. So when Gire
Yes.
Primary School began at nursery level, my mother saw opportunity.
Right.
And she came for us. She stole us at night.
Oh my goodness. This
me
is
and
power of a
me and my
woman.
two brothers, me and
Wow.
my immediate two brothers.
And you left the job that you had of babysitting.
The babysitting.
School started.
School started.
That's amazing because
Yes.
that's the story today we are going to talk about, rising against all
Yes,
odds.
yes, yes.
Because here you are,
Yeah,
Anne,
yeah.
starting school at what age?
At 8.
At 8
Yes,
years.
yes.
That is nursery school.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
We are loving the story. Carry on.
So we went to Kiambere Dam, and we were enrolled in a nursery school.
Right.
Courtesy of one teacher, Mr. Dairi. I honor him to date.
Thank you, Mr. Thairi.
And I remember at that time we didn't have even books to write.
Right.
Literally, when my first day in school, I didn't have a notebook. I mean a pen and a pencil and a book.
You could not afford.
We couldn't afford.
Yeah.
And so I remember I would get into class and spread the SAD like this and
My
create a table.
goodness.
And that's how I would do my whatever, A, B, C, D. And the teacher would just mark.
Right
like
on
that.
the ground.
On the ground.
Wow. It never hindered your growth.
It never hidden my growth.
Right.
So Mr. Dairi saw our potential
Right.
and really encouraged our mom to keep us in school. But my father came and stole us.
Oh my, again, you
He
were
came-
stolen from your father.
Yes.
Now you've been stolen from your
Yeah.
father.
Because again, I
Back to
said,
source. Yes.
in our culture, children belong to the father.
Right.
They are clan's property, you know.
Right.
And so he came with the clansmen and came and stole and took us by force. Actually, that time he came and took us by force.
Oh,
And
my
because, of
goodness.
course, in the society, remember again,
Yeah.
if you are, again, I talked about socialization
Right.
and the social norms, eh?
Yeah.
and basically gender norms.
Right.
Like if you can't keep your wife, then you are a weakling. What kind of a woman? If your children are taken away by your wife, then you are a weakling. How
There
can you
was
speak in a
pressure.
certain? So there was pressure. There was a social pressure from my father to prove that he's a man enough. So the only thing he could do is come and carry us back. So he came with the wazee wa chief, and we were carried back unyo, like, you know. I remember running. I ran.
My goodness, running away so that you don't get to
So because I
taken
still
back.
wanted to continue with school. So my
Right.
father took us back. And it was very miserable. And I remember one night my mother came visiting again, and he took some minutes, and he lied. She lied she was going to whichever market, Ishara market.
Right.
And in the evening, by the way, those people from my community who watch this, they will remember that story.
It was well known. It was drama.
It was drama because she
Right.
came. That's the time the Kemere Dam was under construction.
Right.
So one of the streams in our community called Marivwe was the one that's supplying the sand. Most of the sand was coming from her. So there were these construction lorries
Yes.
that were coming to carry sand
sand,
from our
yes.
community. And so there was a road, of course.
Right.
And so my mother came, and masqueraded like she was going to the market on Ishara, which is a bit far away.
Right.
So she wanted to spend around and see us.
Yes.
Kumbe then planned with my brother, my brother James.
Yes.
My brother James,
Yes.
because now he was the immediate caretaker. You remember we were still young, so
Right.
he was like the one taking care of us, even when we were doing other things. So my brother was also of our way of taking care of 3
I
children.
can imagine.
And my father is not there, is not present, and so my brother collaborated with my mother, and so my mother masqueraded to be around, at spending some time to see her, then he goes to the market.
Right.
Then at night, shwap,
Again.
my mother stole the small one, carried him off. My brother, our last born, because of the youngest,
Yes.
she carried him away.
Yes.
And I remember there was the chief's youth following my mother. I'm telling you, if my mother was caught that day, she would have been beaten to death.
Because she's going against the societal
Yes.
norms.
And so my
Right.
brother knew what was happening. So after a short while, he came back and was like, "Where's mom? Where's mom? Where has he gone? Where has he gone?" By that time, he knew very well my mother is far.
Right.
Then because he was supposed to be responsible,
Right.
he screamed, "Whoa! Mama's come, has carried children.
goodness.
Oh, she's gone
Yeah.
with the last born."
Yes.
And everybody came. Our
Yes.
neighbors came. And the men in the village, the
Yes.
clanmen, they carried the fire burns,
So
the
they-
torches,
yeah.
and they,
Running to catch up
running
with
to
her.
catch my mother to snatch away the baby, but of course to punish her as well.
Right.
So unfortunately, my brother was so sharp. He directed me the opposite.
the opposite direction.
Yeah. So everybody was like, "Oh, she said she was going to Ishara. Maybe she was going." So by the time they got to Ishara this side, by the time they learned she was not going to Ishara, she was going to Canberra Dam.
Yes.
She was
She's
already far away.
gone.
And then the next morning, while at that fracas, my brothers told us very early in the morning, like, we are going to the shamba to take care of the millet.
Right.
Because in our community, we farm millet.
Right.
So we wake up early in the morning to chase the birds. So we woke up like we're going to chase the birds by 5. And by 7 o'clock, we were at Canberra market.
My goodness. Are you guys hearing this?
Yeah.
story?
With my brother.
Yeah.
And my brother went back home. Like, someone was hit and shook hand. No, I didn't hit it.
Yeah, nothing happened.
Nothing happened. So me
Right.
and brother Nelson and my brother lastborn Peterson were united with our mother.
Right.
And that's why I said my mother is a hero. Because she said, with support with Mr. Dairi, they got up an injunction that these children, when they go home, they are not going to school. When they are here, they're in school.
Right.
So they went to the DO and got a letter. And so when the next time my father was coming to steal us, there was a letter.
Right.
In the 80s.
That was a
bright
knowledgeable
woman.
person.
Yes.
At that point. Yes.
Yes. And so that's how we remained in school.
Wow. We salute your mama.
So as we went through school, of course, we did have school fees. We were
Yeah.
struggling to pay school fees. But God has blessed us with wisdom and
Right.
intelligence. So
Yeah.
we were bright in school.
Right.
And so Mr. Dairi would make sure that we are in school during exam
Right.
to elevate the mean score.
Right. You are
So-
benefiting not
So
just
even when we are
yourself.
sent away during the term,
Yes.
when the exam time arrives, hey, there's children who are not in class. They have to do the exam. In the process, we get the notes in the evening. Come tomorrow for exam. We get to exam, we do exam.
Right.
And
you
we do very well.
Wow.
Yes. So
Wow.
we top the class all through.
Right.
And that's how we maneuvered all the way.
Right.
And at class 6, my father became sickly. and decided to call my mother home, you know, reconcile, understand these things. And so the, reconciliation began.
Yes.
And my mother said, okay, the children can go back home, but I'll remain here to find something for them.
Right.
So I went back with my brothers. And you know what? I became the hand of the
Oh,
household.
no, again.
So, as I said, I come from a dry land
Right.
where water is fetched far away,
Right.
6-10 kilometers.
Yeah.
So I would wake up every morning, mtungi 20 liters on my back to the stream, look for water deep in the wells, come back home, make some gruel for my father because he was sickly, go to school with mtungi again.
So that you can come back with water
Yes,
in the
because
evening.
what can 20 liter do in a home?
In a home,
Where you have to wash
yeah.
yourself as you go to school, you have to make something,
My goodness. Yeah.
And it was really difficult.
And here you are.
Yeah, I cannot
Amazing.
remember any time I did the homework at home. I cannot remember.
Because there was no...
There was no even facility. We didn't have even a table. We didn't
Table you
even
could
have
work
lamp.
from.
We didn't have nothing.
And how did you manage?
So I struggled through, I would say, but I had confidence of
Right.
where I was going. I was sure.
Right.
And I kept saying, I can see what girls go through in my community.
Right.
Remember at class 6, all my class 5 classmates are married, or majority of them. At class 6, by the time I get to class 7,
Right.
majority of class 6 are married.
Wow.
And so when I pass in the community, people are like, so why are you not getting married?
You're too old.
You're too old. Why are you struggling to go to school and you will not go anywhere? Who will pay your school fees after
My
all?
goodness.
But I kept on saying, because I believed in God when I was early.
Right.
I was young.
Yeah.
I kept on telling God, God, I know you have my future. I want to rewrite a story. I want to change the narrative of my family.
Wow.
Everybody calls us poor. When you go to school, everyone calls us poor. People would even come and pierce our stomach and see, let's see what you ate yesterday. We know there's nothing in your stomach.
Oh my
It was,
goodness.
I couldn't carry any food at school. The household food poverty. I have seen it with my eyes, where you have no food at all for 2-3 days. And so the food program in school, that would dwell on. We'd
Right.
eat one lunch in school and that's
Yeah,
all.
That's it.
So come to class 8. We did class 8. And yes, boom, the best of the girls. Yes.
That's the beauty of this.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
kept the record. I broke the record of the school.
Wow.
I was the first girl in that school to qualify in a provincial school of the
Right.
time.
Right.
Because those days we had national and provincial. So I
Right.
didn't qualify for national, but I
Yes.
qualified for provincial.
Was very good.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
We were, as I said, I joined school late, so we were me and my brother.
Right.
Index 1 and Index 2.
Yeah.
So we got similar quick, marks to provincial school.
Right.
And there we were. Where do we get school fees?
Next level.
Next
How
level.
do you support it? Yes.
So, of course, we couldn't afford high school.
Right.
And so I opted to repeat class 8. I was
Oh
determined
my
not to go to
goodness.
school.
Yes. At that time, your classmates, a lot of them
Yes, they
have
are
dropped
married.
out.
They have dropped out.
The
They have
girl
gotten
child.
married. The girl child have
Yeah.
gotten married. And so, even being the best, I couldn't afford to go to school. So
Oh my
I repeated primary school, which was far away from my former. Because the former could not take
right.
me in. How? The best.
Yeah.
How can we
Yeah.
allow the best to admit?
You will not motivate the
you will not
others.
motivate the others.
Yeah.
So we went to a first school called Garwerere Primary.
My
Would
goodness.
trek for like 7-10 kilometers one way.
One way?
Yes.
My goodness.
So at class, around March,
Yeah.
when we were almost doing registration for KCPE, it will
the
start in
second
March.
time, yes.
Yes, the second time. I came home and I found an old mzee called Njero Waishea. I honor him so much.
Wow.
He's still there. I call him my father.
Right.
And he was there with a paper and he was holding an admission letter to Makori girls. Remember I was called to a provincial school?
Provincial school, yes.
This is Harambe school.
My goodness, from a provincial school, but
To
there's a letter for
letter
a
for
Harambe
Harambe
school.
school.
Yes.
Yes,
That
and
was
because
going to be
yeah,
affordable?
because this letter was
Yes.
supposed to be for a relative
Yes.
who had gotten married after
Right.
KCPE.
Oh my goodness.
So they were feeling, who will we give this chance?
Yes.
And they were feeling embarrassed also, the fact that they had looked for this opportunity and is no longer honored.
Right.
And so the father, Mr. Njero, said, there's a girl there here who has passed very well. And she has
Right.
repeated.
Yes.
Because the school she was called was quite expensive. Can we go and see whether she would take this offer? And that's how I got the letter to Makori girls.
Wow.
And when I was given the letter, I looked at it. Makori girls. School fees was 9,900 for entire year.
For the entire year.
Compared to 35,000 for provincial school.
Right.
So I looked at it, I was like, yeah, this maybe.
Yes.
And so quickly, I took the letter and I left them there and my mother.
Right.
They thought I was crazy. So I carried the letter. I went to the farm.
Yes.
We had millet and the sorghum bush. So I went, I knelt down. I told God, this letter is to high school.
Wow.
The God of Makori girls is the God of Kangaroo girls, is the God of Gategi girls, is the God of those provincial schools.
So the God of Harambee schools.
The God of Harambee school
is the same God for
of
the
provincial school.
And the national school.
And the national school.
Yes.
The
That
books,
was profound.
The books read in Harambee school and the school read in provincial school and the national school. The teachers teaching in the Harambee school are the teachers who are still teaching in national school and provincial school.
Wow.
So God, you have given this opportunity for Harambee school, I will go.
That was so profound for your age.
And I came back.
That was good.
And I told my mother, yes, I will take it. And I remember my mother crying because she could see hope. You know, it looked affordable. Even then, it wasn't really affordable because we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
So I remember my mother selling everything, even including the chicken that was lying on eggs, including some 4 pieces of mabati she had got to put as a shelter. She sold them off. She sold everything and anything, including dengu that was to eat the next day.
My goodness. Everything that was sellable.
Everything that was sellable in the house was in the compound. There was no house. Everything that was sellable in the compound was sold, and we were left with nothing.
My goodness.
And there we are. The man was not enough yet.
Yeah.
So I'm there. My brother continues with primary school. So I'm there hoping and trusting. And Makori girls is waiting for me to report. March comes, almost March ending, and I've not arrived to school. So the principal sends Mrs. Riongo, Elizabeth.
Right.
I still look for her. So whoever gets Mrs. Riongo, please.
Mrs.
I'm
Riongo,
looking for her.
You're a giant on
Yes.
who's our
Mrs.
guest.
Riongo sent Mr. Njero.
Yes.
Mr. Njero was a teacher, is still a teacher from my community.
Right.
This Mzee was the father of the teacher. All right?
Right.
Yes, was the father of the teacher.
Yes.
So Mr. Njero is the teacher,
Yes.
but the father triggered him to see me wherever. So
wow.
Mrs. Riongo sends Mr. Njero, go to that Mbere home, bring that girl as she is.
Wow.
And of course, Mr. Njero arrives. I saw him. I started crying. You know, I was like, now my opportunity is gone. I've not registered for KCP. The registration has passed on. I'm here waiting to join high school. I haven't joined. And so I was there in a very big dilemma. And Mrs. Riongo says, bring her as she is. And so she bought me my first school uniform, including the school shoes, including, because Mr. Njero came and took measurement.
Yes.
And were taken to school.
Yes.
And he left me the fare.
Yes.
And said that come to school on Tuesday. So he left for school. And so we were there, you know, preparation, just to make sure I get to school next week.
Yes.
And so I get to school with the, before then, we have little money. We still don't have the shopping. You remember the shopping that we have? The mattress, the what?
The kamusis.
The kamusis. We were there crying with my mother. Oh, what do we do? Oh, what do we do? And one morning we were praying with my mother. And my mother said, you know what? Your help will come through. This road will bring your help. I looked at her like, how? And, you know, just trusting God.
Wow.
And we prayed and believed.
Yes.
That day, my 2 brothers were in Kangaroo school. They went on strike. The whole school went on strike. That time, Kangaroo was known for strikes.
Yes.
Those who remember history can. So they arrived home. And because there were Starehe Boys sponsors, they were sponsored by Starehe Boys and Compassion, they had everything.
Wow.
They came home with their boxes.
Yes.
When they arrived home, when my mother saw at them, you have brought everything. Yes. Put them here. And get to the your bag, bring that paper, that shopping list.
Right. All the requirements.
All the requirements. We emptied one
box to the next one.
My brother's Amos. He's a pastor right now and a high school teacher.
Bless you,
I salute
Amos.
you, Amos, my brother. His box was the nearest because he was in Form 2. My brother, the other brother, James, was in Form 3.
Yes.
And so we emptied Amos's
the
box.
Newest.
The newest.
Yes.
And we started shopping.
Yes.
From this box to
the other one.
Mattress, pick, drop. bedsheet, pick and drop. You know,
My goodness.
kamusi, pick and
Yes.
drop, dictionary. And I got the pack for school. And because
Right.
Mrs. Sirongo had offered for school uniform,
Yes.
so I was ready to go.
You were all set.
And they little my mother and sold everything and calling friends here and there. We had like 3,000. We had something to report to school with.
Right.
And so the next week,
You were
off
ready.
to school.
Off to high school.
I left to high school, Makori Girls. I
Yes.
was received by Mrs. Riongo.
Yes.
I was taken to class. The student had already done cards.
Yes.
They were waiting for the final exam, for the term
Right.
exam, the
It's
coming
almost-
week.
the term
So there
is
was no
ending.
learning going on. I was there in school. And I remember that evening when I arrived, I went to a prayer room where the CU would meet and pray.
Right.
Usually that's my character. When I get to an area, I locate, you know, a place that I can go and pray.
You
so
had
I got
already
a place.
known God at
Yes,
a
I'd
personal
already-
level
yes,
by the time
and-
you're going to high school.
Yes, I'd already known God at
Wow,
class 6.
that was
I'd already
good.
known God. I was already born again
Right.
Christian. And I believed in prayer and I kept on praying. So
Nice.
all this time I'm praying.
Yes.
That, remember, even when I got the letter, I went to hide and pray. Because
remember
I
that.
knew God and I knew
Yes.
that God was answering prayers.
Right.
And so I went, I prayed, and I told God, you've given this opportunity. I am living here to University of Nairobi.
Wow.
I was so specific. I
Wow.
wrote it on my palm. I told God, I am living here to University of Nairobi. I didn't even choose many universities. I am going to University
To
of
the
Nairobi.
University of Nairobi.
And I want to do a course that would help me address the social issues
Wow.
that increase vulnerabilities of women and children.
That
I was very specific.
It was that clear from
I was not going
that
to
point.
I was not going to do medicine.
Right.
I know we need doctors, thank you.
Yes.
And they are good people and they treat us and we thank God for them.
Yes.
We have the engineers, they do our houses and roads, yes.
Yes.
I was sure there was a social problem.
And there was the need of you there.
That needs to be handled. I knew there were
Right.
many women like my mother. Remember my sister's early marriage was still ringing.
Yes.
Remember my father and all that. I did mention that at some point he wanted to marry me off. Yeah?
Oh, I actually wanted to
I
ask
missed
you,
that.
how did you manage not to be married off?
Yes.
But I remember you had mentioned you
So
were.
I think I will recap on that.
Yes.
So I had all this at the back of me. Like
Right.
the vulnerability of women and girls is so huge.
Right.
And the constraint they face in life is so huge. And someone needs to come in and address this. So I was looking, which is this course that I would go to do that would
will
help me.
address
So my
that.
first choice was
Yes.
law. Because I had some real
Right.
understanding that probably is, you know, the as a lawyer I'll be able to do, you know,
Social justice.
justice
Yes.
and all that.
Yes.
So when I went to Makori Girls, I was very specific. I prayed to God that I'm living here to University of Nairobi to study a course that will help me address the
The
social
specific need.
dysfunctions in family that cause women and children very vulnerable, you know. And so the next day, I was there in class. I am sitting in class, everybody is their notebooks. I was like, so what do I read?
Right.
How do I prepare
You've
for
just
exam?
joined.
I've just joined. Then someone reminded me, the teachers of last year are the same teachers of this year.
Oh,
And I
wow.
woke up.
Yes.
I woke up. I jumped like I was in a
It's like a
deep
revelation
Yes, like
of sorts.
revelation. I felt the physics teacher who taught last year could be the same teaching this year. Oh, okay.
Right.
What does that mean? It means that Form 2s are actually not the same like these ones. Oh, okay. So how do I access them? That was the
Oh,
nut, hard nut to
right.
crack. So I went again to the staff room. I
Yeah.
talked to Mr. Njero,
Yes.
who had now introduced me to the school.
Right.
And I told him, you know, I've discovered we are preparing for exams. I don't have any notes. My idea is, could you talk to Form 2s who you taught in last year, first term,
Right.
so I can borrow the notes?
Right.
Oh, yeah. You're very bright. I remember I told you you're very bright.
Oh, wow, the
Tell me,
affirmation
I
in
can
itself?
see you're going
Yes.
far. How did you think about that?
Right.
I was just desperate.
Yeah.
I'm seeing everybody's reading. You can't
Right.
borrow. In fact, you know they're jealous in high school
Right.
that I know you're reading physics, but you can't give me your maths book to revise because
yeah,
you want them
cool,
to
boo, boo.
remain.
Yes,
You know?
yes.
So I had to get them from nobody that we are competing with.
We are rising against the odds, howsoever.
So my teacher calls the school head girl,
Right.
Helen Kadhure, that time, and she was this huge cheerleader. So she had
Uh-huh.
found me praying the previous night.
Right.
And so she had noted me.
Right.
So she was told, this girl, have you seen that? Yes, I met her in CU room, in the prayer room.
Right.
Yes, she's a new girl, she doesn't have notes. So I want you to go and in Form 2 and check who is teaching in Form 1 and who taught last year Form 1 and borrow her notes,
Yes.
equivalent.
Wow.
So Helen Kadhure helped me, and because she was the head girl, she had authority,
She had
so she was
authority.
able
Yes,
to
it was
maneuver.
easier.
She went to the Form 2s and
Yes.
borrowed the notes, like she was borrowing for herself, for whatever
Right,
reason.
right.
You know, just Form 2, you know, she just borrowed like with authority, and she
Right.
brought them to me.
Wow.
And that's what I studied.
Another giant.
Helen.
Yes.
So I studied, and the exam came.
Right.
When the exam came, did I beat the exam?
Wow. You've just joined, exams are happening,
Yes.
and there you are.
Yes.
You.
I did the exam.
Yes.
I wrote that exam with all my energy.
Yeah.
And I remember physics, I got everything.
Physics, everything.
Everything. Yeah?
Yeah.
Mr. Jero, wherever he is, he knows. Even in KCSE, I still
Yeah.
got an A.
Wow.
In the same.
In
He was the teacher, yeah.
physics. That's amazing.
At that time, we had physical science.
Yes.
But we're doing chemistry, Kando, physics, separate, and then we
Right.
joined them.
Right.
But in both, I was very good.
Perfect.
So I had an opportunity to go to science.
Girls.
But it was...
Let nothing stop you. You
So-
had her story.
So I developed that desire
Right.
that I can read these notes and pass just like these other ones.
Right.
So I read them, and the exam came, and I beat the exam
Wow.
squarely.
Wow.
So when we are closing school that week,
Mm-hmm.
and the parade is called the closing parade,
Right.
and the for number 1 and number 2, number 3 are being read. Of course, they were read, and I happened to be one of them. Why?
Wow.
Not because I was number 1,
Right.
not because I was number 2.
Mm.
I was not even number 3.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the same grade with the exam only.
Wow.
You see the way you have
Yes.
you have a C of 50,
Right.
50, 51.
Oh, I get you.
The other
I
one
get you.
52. The other
Right.
53. You all have
You
C's.
didn't have cuts. You didn't have
I didn't
marks
have
for
cuts. Yes.
Yes.
But the marks I got,
Right.
I scored the same grade with the ones
Oh, I
up to number 5.
see.
So I was number 6. So the 6 of us and the same grade.
Right.
get?
And yet them they had cuts.
Yes.
Yes.
All right?
I get you.
So that was a supernatural
Wow.
evidence.
You were ready.
I mean,
you
I was
were
ready.
determined.
That
You
was
had
supernatural
done-
confirmation that God was with me.
And of course, for your self-esteem, it
It
really
was
boosted it. You were in the right place.
I remember that time Mrs. Riongo said, we are from ones. These are number 1, number 2, number 3. But we have number 1 of all.
Right.
Anne Wanjiru Sabania. Who is that girl? And everybody was like, who is this?
Yeah.
Who is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Who is this?
Yeah, of course.
And I remember I was given the lamp.
A lamp.
A lamp.
Right.
We didn't have lamp ever in my family.
Wow.
So again, you know, I looked at that lamp. I told God, you've given me this one.
Mm.
I pray that this is going to be a sign and a symbol that God, you are raising me as a lamp in my family, in my community, in my country. Wow. That was
The
my
power
prayer.
of the spoken word.
Yes.
Declaration.
So I left. And of course, now every teacher had fallen in love with me.
Right.
As I
You
said,
do well.
when the teachers were marking, I didn't say, when they were marking, they noticed some, you know, a ghost student.
Yeah, they don't know. They've never seen her in
They've never
class.
seen me because I
Yeah.
came when the learning had been completed.
Yes.
So like, who is this girl? No, my class teacher was called Miss Kyugo. Miss Kyugo, do you know this girl? Like, no, I know there was a new girl, but I didn't expect anything like that. So
Right.
please look for her. So I was called in the staff room.
Yeah.
And when I arrived in the staff room, okay, she's the one. I broke because I was like, they are chasing me out of school because I'm
I
not
can
paying school
imagine.
fees.
You've been pointed. You
And
don't know
they
what it
helped me,
is.
and I was like, so from that point, the teachers became my support system.
Right. Right.
So even if I had not paid school fees the next term, because I was perennially in the list of those who are going home,
Yeah.
I was forever read,
Right.
and I was the top.
Yes. Wow. You are the top there.
Top of the years. So, but then they didn't say, and pass through the staff room.
Right.
And the teachers of Makori girls,
Mm.
I don't know where they are. Majority of we keep talking to a few.
Right,
I keep talking to a
right.
few of them that I know where they are.
Yes.
But I salute them.
Wow.
They supported
Wow.
me. I would get to that staff room and they were literally contributing, putting money on the table. You know,
Right.
and they would say, if Anne is not in that class, who are we going to teach? I'm not
Wow.
bragging, but that is what made me,
Right.
you know, put through that season.
Yeah. You literally sat on shoulders
of those giants.
I keep calling them giants.
Giants,
Someone would call them sponsors.
Yes.
But people who sponsored you.
Yeah.
And thank you so much to all those who look out for the needy in the society.
Yeah.
All those who are doing the extra to see these children get education.
Yeah.
Because it is because of people like you that we have this guest with us.
Yes. Because they would literally, I mean, contribute, put money on the table.
Right.
And tell me, and take that 2,000 to the bazaar. And they would tell the principal, please don't send this girl out. And she's also waiting for the same student. You Anne, go back to class. And I remember in Form 2, in Form 1 second term, I was already the dorm prefect.
Right.
In Form 2, I was the deputy head girl. By the time that then the head girl transferred to another school, immediately I became the head girl at Form 2.
Wow. Form
So
2.
yes, Form 2.
How are you handling
I was handling a huge school.
Yes.
And remember, I am poor. When they are buying gumus, I am not able to buy.
Right.
When they have those nice shoes, I don't have.
Yeah.
When they have those sugars and chocolate, I don't have. But still commanded my space.
Right.
Because
right.
I had
You are
something.
confident.
I was confident.
Right.
I already knew my space.
Right.
I knew I was not there by accident. I was there at the right time.
Wow.
And so I
Wow.
commanded my space.
Right.
Yes, and even when they told me, they would even call me funny because, of course, sometimes I didn't have even oil to
apply on
apply my
yourself.
face
Yes.
and all that. So they would tell me I'm pararad, and of course, nimetoka mbele, umechapwa na njua,
I
you
can
look so bad.
imagine.
Yeah, but I was still, I held my hand high. I'm like, you know what? I am the head girl and I've said you do this.
You do it.
Yes,
I said it to
it is.
do. That's amazing.
So I commanded the school.
Right.
And there I was. All that time, every time I closed school, I did house girl job.
Right.
So that's how I did. When I closed school, I would do house girl job. Local primary school teachers will employ me to do, job in their homes, and they would pay me little money to be able to pay school fees. Not pay school fees, transport back to school.
Right.
And maybe sanitary towel. That time we
Yes.
used to use cotton wool, cotton wool. Unakata, you funga them, and you
goodness.
pant them in there.
Right.
So that, because it was really a
struggle.
a struggle.
Yeah.
It was really a struggle. I remember at some point I would even have to collect old blankets from neighbors, collect mattresses, those that are, dilapidated and very, very dirty, and just put them on a sanitary towel because I couldn't afford that.
Right.
So when I closed school, I'd have to work because now I can't carry those dirty blankets in school.
Right. You
So I
wash
had,
them.
So you can't be able to wash them how. So I had to work during holidays to get some little money. And I remember at Form 2, third term, the person who had worked for refused to pay me. So I dropped out of school simply because I couldn't afford money to even pay transport back to school. And I remember the head teacher sending home for me and sent Mr. Njero again. That was a new teacher, Mrs. Kedenji.
Mrs.
Jane,
Kedenji,
Mrs.
another
Kedenji.
giant.
Oh, my mother forever.
Right.
She sent, and she understood the Mbere culture and early marriages and teenage pregnancies and stuff like that. So Mr. Jero told my mother, the headmistress has said, if she is pregnant, bring her to school. If she's married, bring her with a husband. If she's a mother, bring her as she is.
Howsoever she is, bring her.
Just bring her.
Right.
So Mrs. Tajero arrives and brings transport, of course.
Yeah.
Please come on Tuesday.
Right.
That's when there was public transport availability.
Right.
So I arrive in school.
Not Mondays.
Not
Public
Mondays.
Transport was only available on specific days.
On specific days. Remember I said come from the very interior of the interior where you have
Yes.
one matatu that leaves at a specific day and it arrives on a specific day. So that was a challenge. So I arrived in school, Makori girls. And I remember the school went on, rampage. They could not imagine I've come back. I was the school head girl, but they received with a lot of love.
Wow.
They were missing me.
Right.
And I was there crying and, finally I'm back to school.
Yes.
Mrs. Kedej called a quick parade and addressed the student. You see this girl, she comes from a very poor family. Look at her, she's struggling to. Some of you, your parents are paying school fees in ant funds with bonus for tea leaves, and you're still running away from school. Look at this girl who is struggling. So I became so everybody now started waking up. Okay, so there are girls who are actually struggling to be in school.
Right,
and I became now
opportunities are not
motivation
for
to other
everyone.
girls, even in school.
Right.
Some girls started now wanting to emulate and,
Right.
coming to talk to me and asking me how I'm maneuvering and all that. And that time, Mrs. Kedenji adopted me as her daughter.
Wow.
And she told me what? You're not going back to that Mbere home. When you close school, you come to my home.
Wow.
And Mrs. Kedenji, I honor you, Mommy.
Wow. Thank you, Mrs. Kifeji.
She was the principal.
Mm.
The husband was the deputy principal at Shogoria Boys.
Yes.
And so they were both teachers.
Mm.
So I would close school, go to their home. I did not go there as a domestic worker.
Right.
I went there as a child.
Wow.
And they told me, you've lost so much, you need to recover. So they would get me material to read. I would support them with the tuition for the young boys, because they are the young boys in primary
Right.
school. But I was a daughter in the home. And that's how I went through. And Mrs. Kilenji looked at me in the eyes. I remember that day I arrived to school.
Right.
After the long, having stayed home.
Yes.
She escorted me to the dormitory.
Right.
She's helped me spread my bed. And as she was doing that, she was speaking to me.
Right.
She was telling me, Anne, I can see you have a bright future.
Yeah.
Promise me, I'll keep you in school. But promise me, you'll be the first girl to go to university. She sent shopping for me. She bought me, for the first time I saw blueberry in my shopping list. In my first time I saw sugar in my box.
Right.
For the first time I saw the always of the time
Right.
in my box. I couldn't believe
It
this.
was yours to
It was
to
mine,
keep
the
that.
oil, the Vaseline,
Right.
and Colgate and everything. So she did for me a normal shopping for a school-going girl.
Right.
And she escorted me to the dormitory. And she told me, Anne, I look at you, I see a very bright future for you. I don't know if you see it. I told her, yes, I see it. I see it. That's why I've decided not to get married, because other girls have gotten married.
Right.
And she told me, I want us to make a covenant.
Right.
That I will make sure that you remain in school.
Yes.
But you also make a covenant that
Yes.
you'll be the first girl to go to university from my school.
Wow. Because there had not been another
Yeah,
girl
in
from
a
the
period of 10 years plus. That was a
Wow.
Rambe school. That was picking
Right.
any girl who went to any
to
girl who
school,
went to
yes.
school, as long
Yes.
as you did KCPE.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
you didn't want to repeat. Our time there was that repeating option.
Right. Right.
Unlike today. So as long as you did KCPE and you want to transit to high school and your parents have money to pay, you just go
You
to
just
the
get
Arambe
in.
school. So
Right.
I was not kind of a Arambe school.
Right.
You know.
So no student had
Yes.
been to
Yes,
the
so
university.
between my marks and the second one, there was a huge of almost 250 marks.
The ones who
Yes.
ones who had joined.
Yes,
Right.
between me and them.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
first admission, official
Yes.
admission,
Yes.
there was a distance of a space of like 200 marks or
Wow.
something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
So I told her, I give you my word. I will work hard. I will go to university.
Right.
And so from that time, I was not sent home.
Wow.
So every time I closed school, I went to my principal's school home.
Right. Yes.
I had everything. She shopped for me everything. She made sure that my uniform was replenished. So I looked a head girl. I looked neat. I had money for broad drive.
Yes.
I mean, for the first time, I had money even to buy ngumu in the
Yes,
kiosk.
in the kiosk. when
Yes,
the
so
kids
she would
are-
call
yeah.
me once in a while and give me 200 shillings. Mr. Njeri would call me once in a while, give me 100 shillings.
Yes.
So for the first time I had now, I was living a normal high school life,
Right.
And I said I am going to use that opportunity to work very hard.
Right.
So I worked very hard. Remember, I was dabbling as the school head girl.
Yes.
And whereas most of the time, some of girls some of children who become leaders tend to forget their academics.
Right.
For me, I took that as an opportunity. I made sure that the school was so orderly
Right.
that my absence was felt.
Wow. If they don't feel your absence.
Yes, I made sure that I made the school so orderly
Right.
that if I am away, people will feel that there's somebody
There's
missing.
something missing here.
That was my principle, to ensure that I remain focused on school.
Right.
Because if I'm always running after helter-skelter, people are not following rules and regulations of the school, then I'm always dealing with discipline issues. So I made sure that girls understand why we are in school.
Right.
I kept on speaking to them, encouraging them to be in school on time and classroom in time. So discipline went so high,
Right.
and Makori girls started to shine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for the first time, Makori girls produced a University of Nairobi.
Hallelujah.
And there I am.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I remember what you said earlier before you went to school when you were praying
Yes.
about the same books that
Yeah.
the provincial schools,
Yes.
the same teachers.
In
And here you are, you
Yes.
met the same teachers there
Yes.
who because I'm thinking without competition, sometimes you can lag and relax.
Yeah.
And that's why I would encourage our viewers, especially those who are going through hard times. When you get an opportunity, seize the moment.
Yes.
And seize the moment.
Yes.
She got the support and seized it.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of you because now look, we have a gender expert.
Yes.
Yeah. And now you transitioned into campus.
So after high school,
Yes.
I went home. now I went back to my poverty-stricken home.
Right. Oh, you're back to home now.
Remember, I've learned to sleep in a bed at my headmistress' home.
Yes, you had a
I've
you had a
learned to
comfortable
eat. I've
place.
learned to eat good food.
Yes.
Balanced diet.
Yes.
Soap and oil. Here I come. I am nothing. So I told my mother I want to go and look for a job.
A job, yes.
So I packed. I come to Thika to look for some. I was called by somebody to come and help me.
Yes.
3 days down the line, he wanted to sexually exploit me.
My goodness.
So I jumped out of that.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to go, but I landed to some rose farms in Thika.
Right.
So I heard that people are getting opportunity there.
Yes.
And one of my cousins were working there.
Yes.
So I went there to look for some job.
Yes.
And again, I was told you have to have sex with the managers and supervisors for you to get a job.
No.
And so
Gender-based
4 days
violence.
down the line, 3 days, 1 week down the line, I wasn't getting any opportunity. And that's a story I've not told many people.
Oh my goodness.
But I stayed in that flower farm looking for opportunity. Every morning, coming out of the gate with my ID, and nobody called my name.
Oh my goodness.
And the supervisor, I will not mention the flower farm because it's still there. I know it.
Yes.
So the people will come out there and they'll be called and they'll get jobs. And I remained at the gate.
And you were told the reason why
So
your name is not being
yes,
mentioned.
so one of the evening I was
Yes.
brought the manager direct from our cubicle where we were sleeping. You know the flower farms, they construct accommodation unit where it's a common unit, but you have a cubicle where you sleep.
Right.
So the lady was hosting me. I will not mention her name.
Right.
Brought for me the manager, the supervisor who hires in the morning, and she left. And he told me, young girl, I hear you're very bright. You're going to the university. I can even give you a better job here, not just the flower picking. You can go to the office and do clerical work, but only if you sing my song,
Oh my goodness.
sleep with me.
Sleep with. Oh no.
And I told him right on the ice,
It's a
let
no.
me die poor.
Oh my goodness.
I will not sleep with you.
Right. Right.
And so he walked out in anger. And the one who was hosting me came, very disappointed. And from that day, she denied me food.
My goodness.
She told me, you know what? Even me, this is how I got the job. So if you don't want to do it, you can't continue eating my food.
My goodness. You're
And
eating
so-
from my sweat and from
Yeah.
my work.
So I was there the next morning. I didn't have anywhere to go. So I maneuvered around. You know the way you know somebody, contacts of someone who's somewhere. You know the way you know from your village, somebody is somewhere.
Right.
So I landed again in Thika Makongeni.
Choices had consequences.
Yes,
You
so I
had
walked to
leave.
Thika Makongeni.
Yes.
One of my friend called, and my distant relative, called Lily Ngugi. And I know she may watch this.
Right.
Yeah. She was teaching at a school at 14 Falls.
Right.
Just past Makongeni Thika. So I learned about her there. So I went to her school. So she hosted me for a night.
Oh.
But she was just a untrained teacher.
Yes.
So she didn't even have salary per se.
Right.
So she didn't have anything. She was staying in the school. She didn't have a place to keep me.
Mm.
So she helped me maneuver and map other people around. She knew
Right.
that would host me.
Yes.
And so I was hosted by a few people from my
Yeah.
village.
Yes.
At there's one of the slum areas in Thika,
Mm-hmm.
Katwenyaga,
Yes.
after Makongeni.
Yes.
Just landless place.
Yes.
So we stayed there. And that's how I got domestic work. In
right,
Nairobi.
You moved now to
Yes.
being a domestic worker.
Yes. Because
After
I
the
discovered,
frustration, yes.
I discovered now there were flower farms, they were hiring.
Oh my goodness.
But for you to
But
get,
couldn't.
you needed to sleep with
Oh my
someone.
goodness. We call that gender-based.
Yes, it's actually sexual exploitation and
Sexual
abuse at workplace.
Yes. Sexual exploitation.
Now you see
Yeah.
framing of things I do.
Right.
So I come to Nairobi and I get domestic work.
Right.
And finally I got a place I can sleep. I can eat some food without having to give sex offers to anybody.
Right.
And so I worked at Mweki.
Right.
And Mweki was Mweki when there were no many houses.
Right.
In the 1999, 2000 and 2001.
Right.
So I worked there, 1,500 shillings per month, sleeping on the floor sometime. eating very little food, no food. But for me,
Right.
that was enough food
It
because
was
I came
enough.
from no food
From no food
to some little food.
Yes.
Yes, I left that place until time for me to join university.
Right.
I need to have information about help. I need to have information about what happens when you get a
Right.
government sponsorship, government intake. So I thought the university is paid directly. I didn't know there is this,
You have to do
lack of information.
application.
Yes.
Yes.
So along the way, I remember Makori girls did some arambe for me, the teachers and everybody, because they were so proud. This is our first fruit.
Yeah.
So they came all the way to my primary school in Ngoshe,
Right.
under the leadership of Mrs. Kedenji.
Right.
They became a whole fan of BOM and some teachers.
Right.
And it was a huge celebration. Remember, everybody was coming to see this girl who is going to university in this village. And they brought me that 3,000. That was a lot of money.
I can imagine.
So, yes.
I can imagine.
And so I was there. Then I earned some little money
Right.
from Nairobi
Yes.
as a house girl. And remember, we did have a shelter in our compound.
Right.
So I bought 14 mabatis,
Yes.
iron sheets.
Yes.
And I just want to leave my mother in a small home,
Yes.
a house at least. So I did a 2-roomed house,
Wow.
manned house,
Wow.
and I was the star of the village. So every boy wanted to come to help me.
I can imagine. Now here you're going to campus. Here you have
Yes.
managed to build your mama a
Yeah.
place to sleep.
So I remember, because I belong to the East Africa Pentecostal Church in the rural home.
Right.
So the parish churches, the youth,
Yes.
the young men, they came.
All
The
motivated.
house was built for a day.
Wow.
It was constructed, mudded.
The Harambe spirit was real.
They couldn't believe this. For the first time we had a shelter in our compound.
My goodness. My
I
goodness.
made a bed of tree trunks,
Yes.
just getting tree branches and
Yes.
corner by corner,
Right.
and put some
Supporting
supporting
them.
whatever,
Yes.
and
Yes.
some gunias. And for the first time in my mother's
Wow.
compound, I
Wow.
slept above the floor.
When you're talking like this, it sounds like stories of giants. Like stories
It's
that
true.
happened those many
It's
years.
true. And when I'm mentioning people, it's because they would hear me and relate with. Because they used to know.
Yes.
So for the first time in my compound, in our homestead,
Right.
I slept a feet high.
Wow. You are used to
for
the ground.
For me, that day I slept. Bitches, I slept.
I can imagine.
Hey.
That was heavenly.
I slept.
Yes.
And the bed was the meaty ones. It's not really a formal bed.
Right.
No. Even the mattress was things tucked in gunia and
Yes.
just, but the fact that I slept above
the ground.
Whoa,
Wow.
I slept. And remember, I had the lamp from
amazing.
high school.
Yes.
So I let it on. And we went, my goodness. I slept there. And my mother would wake up at night and
Yes.
like, oh, we're in our own house.
In your own house.
Yes, we
Done by
slept.
yourselves.
And so at that time I was prepared now to go to high school, to
campus,
university.
Yes.
And of course, I wasn't clear how I get to pay school fees. I knew school fees in the university was high.
Yeah.
I knew I had gotten joint admission,
Yes.
and public sponsored, or
Yes.
government sponsored.
Yes.
But I didn't know how it is done.
Yes.